about me.
Okay, please everyone state a fun fact about this. No, just kidding.
Oh,
All right, this family law, this is the first day of family law for spring 17. I think it's January 10th. I think it is. It seems like it. Okay, so obviously one of our most favorite things to do is to go over the syllabus, right? Everybody likes to go over the syllabus so you know all the wonderful things you should know. I've already posted it to the Blackboard. This class is hybrid, so you should be prepared to use Blackboard. That's where everything's going to go, and including the syllabus, the assignments, and all of those things. I've already posted this. I posted the first attendance quiz, which since you're here, you don't have to worry about that. I'll just mark you. If you come to class, I will mark you for the attendance quiz, right? I know when you're here, I can figure that out. If you are not here to get attendance, you must take the quiz. It's a keyword quiz, essentially. It'll be a fill in the blank, all right? So I'll tell you when we get somewhere along the way here what that keyword is. And I'm not saying that keyword will always be relevant by any stretch, but it's in there. The assignment for what has been called the syllabus assignment is in there, which means basically that you have to read the syllabus, okay, and give me some information. It's pretty simple. You just need to do it. Okay, how about that? So it's my way to say that you read everything you just agreed to, right? You know, that's like in a contract. Normally you sign a contract, you don't read the crap, you just sign it. That's how we work, right? True? Anytime you have like an iTunes update, everybody reads that whole user agreement, right? Yeah, it makes you check like 6 boxes to prove you did, but you still do it anyway without reading it, right? Yeah, you're like me, right? I don't read it. That's why, you know why they don't submit it on paper? It's because like people like me would cross things out, and initial, and try to agree to it otherwise. It doesn't work. Anyway, your other choice, you can either agree to the user agreement, or you can not use iTunes or whatever, right? It's kind of the same deal here. It's a cohesion contract, so you pretty much have to sign it. All right. I'm not asking you to sign, I'm asking you to submit an assignment on it. So there it is. That stuff, everything will go in there as we go. As you probably know, there's some folks that are in this class. Oh, there's Emily's on there. Hi, Emily. That will have their stuff that they can attend by video, basically. From time to time, I may put content, videos, things like that in there. So just so you know, all those things are going to be out there. I also am requiring you to know how to get onto Westlaw, and if you recall, I gave you a Westlaw link maybe at some point, some of you. If not, there's a Westlaw link that I put in here so you know how to get to it. All right, it's the same as Lexis, but Westlaw is way better. At least our package is better. Lexis could be good too, but we just don't have that package. Westlaw is good. So when you need to do legal research, I want you to use that and all the other tools that you might use to research the law that are free, right? What's my go-to legal resource? Google, right? That's my favorite. It's the first place to go. That's not the last place, by the way. That's the first place. That's my go-to. Anyway, so with that said, some people are going to be online, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part of the syllabus here. And it's available for you to print and everything online. As you can tell, there it is. This is family law. We meet on Tuesdays from 3:30 to 4:45. The other meeting basically every week is online, so you'll know more about that as we progress through the semester. I'll tell you this, that I really prefer that you email me first before calling my office. Not that I'm offended by you calling my office, but you're much more likely to get a quicker response by email, because I am terrible about checking my messages, and I don't really like when the phone rings, so I don't always answer it. I'm just kidding. I have in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you've heard of that, right? One of the things that he suggests is that you prioritize your conversations. Well, I always prioritize the person in front of me over the phone, okay? So that's why I sometimes don't answer. But email me, I'll get back to you pretty quickly. I probably respond too fast, actually. So if you don't know, I'm also the chair of the Business Accounting Public Service Division. So I'm in my office quite a bit, and I put my office hours. I don't know if those will always be exactly when I'm in there, but pretty much I'm in there all the time. So, but Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10:30 to noon is my given time. Like I try to be there during that, but I get called away to meetings. But you can pretty much find me in there. If not, again, email me and we'll work out a time. There's my office number, and if you can't get me and you really need somebody on the phone, call the division phone number. That's L'Oreal will answer that, and she's good. She'll get back to me. She'll let me know what's going on and how I can help you. All right. So there is those intro pieces to it. This is the book. Okay. I heard that it's not all. There aren't more copies available. Does anybody not have the book? Okay. You think you can get the book pretty soon?
I already paid for the book. The book, like I emailed you and said it was on order from the bookstore.
Okay.
So
Anybody else having problems getting the book? I mean, I know the bookstore just doesn't have it. So nothing to do about that.
Right.
Everybody else has it. Eric, you need it too?
No.
Okay. Good deal. All right. This same fella has this book that's like this thick and it's hardback, and I assume it costs more, so that's why I picked this one. Just as a point of information, because that one, and it's big. I don't like carrying around heavy books. This is kind of my area, so that's the other reason the book's a little bit thinner too, because I don't really feel like we need a ton of the book to understand family law. So that's the book we'll use. We're going to have some other assigned readings, but I'll give them to you. Those are probably mostly going to be Ohio and West Virginia family cases that I know of, and we'll pass along to you. So there's some interesting ones. Some of them, they're ones that I actually was involved in, so I think they're kind of neat from that standpoint. Of course I do, because I was involved in that. So we have that, other related readings and things I'll give to you. The rest of this is your catalog course description, your prerequisite. I don't know if you all probably don't care too much about that. Course requirements, you need internet access, you access to Blackboard, and you really ought to be using Microsoft Word to submit your assignments, right? Because I can use some of the tools in Blackboard to help you out there. We have some learning outcomes, there's all those fun things, right? Okay, special course policies, you're required to participate and attend each class. Remember then, we talked about how do you attend the class, that's another piece, but you're required to attend. There are different ways to attend. So you either come now or you come by an alternative method. What are the alternatives? Basically, we have a traditional format for the course. I don't have online materials or PowerPoints or those other kinds of presentations. I might put videos up from time to time, things like that I come across that are useful to you. But basically, it's the regular class type meeting for this hour and 15 minutes on Tuesdays, okay? You can attend one of three ways. You can come in person, right, like you are today if you're sitting in the room. If you're not here currently, you can stream it live, so you can actually sit at your computer from 3:30 to 4:45 on Tuesdays, and I'll try to send you the link ahead of time so you can log in, right? If you've ever done that before, you can live stream the class, basically. After this class is over and I say bye to this live stream, it automatically archives it into YouTube, which then I will put into Blackboard. Probably just put it in one location, so it's automatically on there at the end of every class period, okay? That's your third way to attend the class. In the event that you do not attend in person, you must view the video, and you must confirm your attendance by taking a weekly quiz, all right? The weekly quiz is a one-question, fill-in-the-blank, keyword type question, all right? I may ask you the question. It may not always be relevant. I already went over this, but for instance, today's is a fill in the blank that kind of does give you a question. It may not always. It may just be like, what's today's word, right? Never mind. That's like Sesame Street, right? Today's word it is.
Yes.
Okay. Streaming video. How do we do the streaming video? It's I send you a link. You go. It's really through what we used to be called Google Hangouts. Then they incorporated it into YouTube. It's still called Hangouts. Who cares? It's a Google app. All right, I'll send you the link. Make sure it works, right? It's pretty cool. and we can video conference. I can pop it up real quick. I'm sharing my screen. You can see in 8,000 million infinity versions that there's Emily and her dog down in the corner. That's not actually them. That's a picture of them. But I assume she's on there. But you can show up here too. All right. So that would be fun. But it's kind of creepy because it just keeps going on, and I can see it there. It's kind of annoying though because it does that to you, right? Catch you off guard. So don't look at it too closely, right? No magic 3D image will appear if you stare at it long enough. But you can do that, and that's how you show it. And it actually gives you a chat feature, which I probably ought to pull that up because I don't think it's there. Oh, somebody chatted. Yes, I'm on here. Thanks for showing everyone my selfie. You are the one who put your own selfie on there, by the way. So you can chat over here and ask the question. Oh, I'm pointing at the screen. Let me use the cursor over here, and then we can, when I see that, then I can respond to your question, right? You could mic in and like we could hear your voice, but you don't have to do that. Just type it in there. That's probably the easiest way, right? I'm good with that. And then we'll try to respond to your question. Okay? Wow, you wrote a lot of messages. Okay. Back to the syllabus. So the archive video, where will that be located? Once it's downloaded, it goes into our YouTube channel, and I can embed that in Blackboard so you don't have to do anything but go into Blackboard, and there it is. Okay? So that's how those work. Of course, even if you do attend, you can always go back and look at them, right? Because they're always there. I don't know how much you'll want to do that, but they're available, right? Okay, email policy. I am like a really big stickler for a proper subject line, okay? So just keep that in mind. I like a proper subject line. What do I like for this class? I would like you to write LS 335 as the beginning of your subject line, and then the actual subject of your question, your comment, your complaint, whatever it is, put it that way. Why? Because I think last time I looked at more than 10,000 emails sitting in my inbox, not ones that need to be read, hopefully, but they get lost. Right. Luckily, there's a really cool search feature that I can just like type in random words I remember from our conversation, but it's very much more difficult than if I just click specific to this class. Okay. Also, big point I don't like either. So remember this. Try to, if it's unrelated to the stream or that strand of conversations, come up with a new one. Right. So if I send you an email like, oh, here's the syllabus, enjoy. And then you really have a question that's not related to syllabus, it's related to next Tuesday, you can't be here or something. Start a new one and say, I might miss next week, right? That way it doesn't get lost in that one, because it's harder to search that. Okay? Keep that in mind. I try to respond within 24 hours. Unfortunately, I'm a little faster than that, so typically. But sometimes I intentionally wait 24 hours just so that I can have my insanity from time to time. Right? I will tell you, I'm not very good I pretty much shut off between noon on Saturday and noon on Sunday. So not totally, but I'm pretty much, that's my 24 hours that I don't respond to people's stuff. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Makeup, missed, or late work. All right, here's a new policy. Even if you've had my classes before, there's my new policy on this stuff. It's unacceptable to have late work. Do you know that? Right? In the world, especially in the court world, in the legal world, it's unacceptable to be late. Okay, guess what? People are late from time to time. So what I think you should do is to request an extension of your due dates. How do you request an exception to your due date? You got to write a written motion, okay? You can email it, but it should be written. You should do that in advance of the deadline, okay? Courts do not really grant extensions if you've already missed the deadline. You've just missed the deadline. So that's my rule. Before happens, you need to write a written motion seeking an extension. If you do not hit that, what do I want?
Within 5 days after.
Within 5 days after, what else do I want? Attached to the written motion. I want the work. Okay? or at least something that shows me what you've done to date. Okay? So if you're missing a deadline, you're going to submit a written motion with the work attached to it, and then I'll determine whether or not I'm going to grant the extension. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so in other words, you can get an extension by filing a motion beforehand, and I'll either grant or deny it, right? I'm pretty soft. And on the second piece of it, if you miss it, I want you to go ahead and submit the work when you ask for the extension. Okay? Got it? All right. Your attendance, we already talked about all that. Of course, it's important. There's a whole bunch of required additions to the course syllabus. I have to report attendance at some point. There's a tutoring center if you need. I don't know that there's any legal people in there anymore, right? No, you were it, but you left. So we don't have any specific legal studies tutor. However, both I'm available and I'm sure Professor Turner is available to help. I particularly know about family law, so I think that you might probably be beneficial from me. The tutoring center, though, for all your other purposes, if you have any other classes that require it, the tutoring center is no longer in the basement. It's actually in the back of the library. Okay, so be aware of that change. Let's see. Something about your felonies and sex offense records. Those are, be careful, know how to get out of the building in the event of a fire alarm. I think there's a chart somewhere. Just run. So run, scream, yell, push people. I say that so you remember, like, oh, I should do it orderly, but I still won't. You still won't. Okay. Honor code. Okay. The thing about the honor code is to, like, not cheat. Like, you know what cheating is, right? We pretty much know what it means. You should follow the honor code, but I'm saying you know what to do, right? You took ethics, I hope. That's part of it. You should respect others. That's part of the honor code. But there's several things. You've signed agreement to that, I'm guessing. You have an email account through WVUP. You should use that. It's the best way to do it because of your using the Hangouts and the YouTube and all that stuff, and your Blackboard. It's good to use your WVUP account. There's social justice, non-discrimination. We're not going to discriminate against people for, you know, really any reason. But there's lots of protected classes. We ought to know about those as law students generally, because that's a constitutional thing about being a protected class and all those things. So don't discriminate against others. Disability services, if you need anything from that office, Kirk Klettner's the contact, but if you need anything from them, you go through them, and then they'll contact me. So, and then we can work out anything we might need. All right. Communication expectations. If I haven't responded to you in 24 hours during the work week, you should contact me. So that's helpful. But if you were someone else's class, they have to contact, you would contact me too. So let's just not contact me at all, because people will communicate with you properly, right? Let's hope. And if it's not me, just keep sending them to me. That's how I'll go with that. We'll just make that a cycle. If I'm disappointing you, just continue to contact me and complain. And I'll properly file it. Business office expectations. You probably know that some people were administratively dropped from the classes before the classes started, right? Did you hear about that? That was a new thing. So so just be aware that's happened. That's the business office requiring you to be paid in paid status before the semester starts, or you're going to get booted from the classes. Okay, it's actually pretty important, because it helps for us to actually know who's going to be in our classes. And otherwise, we get about 6 weeks in, and then some people are dropped out of their class. They've spent time, we've spent time. You understand. Okay, so keep that in order. Grading scale. I'm a simple grading scale person, because grading scales don't really matter. You just whatever I want to say is an A, I can fit it in. At least you know when you have. Okay. No, I'll add up the points and make it this right score, right? Okay. Jeez, we took that personally. What? No, I actually calculate the points.
Okay, so if we're like an 89.9, you're not gonna.
It doesn't say that.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe if you attend all the time. Be all right. Okay, grading rubric. This isn't really a rubric, but this is how many points are available. 700 points, basically, for this class. We have 3 quizzes, 150 points worth of assignments, which we have about 10 assignments, so that's 15 points apiece. We have a 100-point project, a 100-point final, and we have 50 points of attendance. Okay? So I've counted those as 1 point, by the way, those quizzes, but I'll eventually make it up to the 50 points. Okay? So, because like 50 divided by 16 doesn't really calculate correctly. So, and you know, I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician, so we'll just go with that. Okay, got it? Special grading issues. I should have put like question mark. Like for your feedback. What would you like to be spent? No.
Are you picking fun at us?
No, I'm not. Absolutely not. It's out of character. Here's our schedule. We have class every Tuesday, and that's what those dates are. If those dates are incorrectly numbered, just assume I meant Tuesday. Okay? I believe they're right, but you know, things happen. We won't be meeting randomly on a Wednesday. It really is on Tuesday. Okay? So the 10th is today. We're going to cover a few things, and then we're going to read some stuff. And on the 17th is next week we'll come. And let me tell you right now, I know it says on the 24th we have class over chapter 3. Though we're not going to meet because I have to go to a conference in Charleston on Tuesday. The 24th we will not be here. However, I will be putting something in there that's content for that class. I'll put it in there. I'll probably email you too, but I'll put something in there that we will basically have it. It won't be an hour and 15 minutes or anything like that, but I'll put something in there for content that we'll work on. But I just want to give you a heads up that I already know won't be here because it's actually a family law conference. So I thought it was kind of, y'all should go, but you wouldn't want to pay probably. And it's all day. It's not just an hour. So that's.
Did you go like every year?
The conference, yeah. Usually have to. I get my continuing ed, but I also need to know more about. So you'll get. What was that?
What's the project?
I haven't assigned that yet. Don't worry about that. We got to get into the class. You won't understand the
trial or something.
Oh, we should, but no, probably not. Okay, so we have some things here. Quiz number 1. We're going to stay on schedule, even though we're going to miss that class. We're just going to keep going. We'll keep right on trucking, right? Okay, there's all the stuff's listed out here really nicely. If those things change, I'll let you know. Okay. We'll present our projects and however method we need to use to do that.
Are they individual projects or are they like group
We'll figure that out when we get to them. We're way away from that. That's like in April. It'll be like kind of warm by then. And the final exam, I do want to point out that the final exam will be comprehensive. And the reason for that is that it's family law, and family law is comprehensive, right? It doesn't really lend itself to being blocked out. It's a full project. It's a full thing. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah.
What is your question?
You'll let us know really far in advance about the project, right?
Oh, yeah, because that's just the best way to do it. What do you mean I'll let you know?
I mean, is that going to be like a whole week in advance and you're going to spring a project on it?
Yeah, that's not right.
Really,
I don't think
something
that's.
you're going to be talking about throughout the course,
Yes.
correct?
You got it.
Like bringing in stuff at me last minute.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll know it's not going to be, if I told you today what it was, you wouldn't like it. So once you know some stuff, you'll be fine with it.
You go ahead and tell me now.
No, I'm not done. Because you won't understand the words. Okay. I'm just
Don't tell me.
Okay. All right. You won't understand the full scope with what I would say. It's not that big a deal. You'll be fine. You'll know how to do everything you need to do with it when we get there.
So how am I going to reach out to one for those who don't?
Well, that's be complicated.
We can share.
I'll tell you a little bit about chapter 1 right now, and then maybe we don't have to worry about that much of that word.
That's fine.
I'm good with that. So let me tell you, I want to read this. There's this interesting, right at the beginning of the book, there's this really interesting quote that they put in here about the history of marriage. Okay, and I find it, I find it to be important to how you understand family law today. Okay, and I won't read this whole paragraph, but the beginning. Until a generation ago, there was a social consensus as to what marriage meant. Marriage was permanent and monogamous. Children were automatic, essential, and central. Husbands earned money and made decisions. Wives stayed home taking care of house, children, and husband. And the legal system reinforced the social norms for marriage. Now the clarity and unity of the domestic picture is gone. If you go down a little further, you'll see the changes are legion and their message is clear. The destruction of traditional marriage as the sole model for adult intimacy is irreversible. Okay? Okay, so that's kind of powerful, isn't it? Yeah, they should have wrote it as a poem, I think. It would have been better. Yeah, haiku, that'd be good. But it's a powerful message, right? It's saying that, like, oh, not that long ago, most people got married, had kids, and there was a single worker household. That's what it's saying. Is that true today? No, not. It's not true. Okay, so that traditional definition of what marriage, and really then what family law is more about, isn't marriage, it's about divorce. And then even more than that, it's about child custody, right? And property distribution, all those fun things. But you didn't need very much in the way of rules if everyone basically stayed together, didn't get divorced, right? There wasn't a big deal. You couldn't have divorce if one party wasn't going to be working, right? Didn't really work well. You get it? Okay. What? Okay. Yeah, Cheech and Chong, right? All right. So I just think that's an important quote to understand, that family law is very complex because of our personal relationships have changed significantly. In the past, we had a historical term that we called unity of person. Anybody ever heard of that term? Okay, other than reading the chapter, what do you think that means in the context of family law?
Two people were the same as one.
Right? Who was that person then?
Husband.
The husband. Once there was a marriage, the wife ceased to exist as a legal person. Right?
Right.
That was the legal concept. There was no wife for legal purposes. No, there was existing. It's just that you couldn't enter into contracts, you couldn't own property, you couldn't buy a car, right? You couldn't. Yeah, you were property, I suppose. You couldn't sue for divorce because you didn't exist separately, right? That's a pretty complex. You couldn't file criminal charges against the husband because it would be the husband filing charges against the husband himself, right? Okay, the system isn't that anymore. You think there's some lingering effects of that process, that concept? Yes, it's there. I think this is interesting too. So unity of person is an important concept in divorce, really, because divorce couldn't exist with that concept existing, right? But if you go down, this is on page 2, but I just think it's interesting again. It's a story of Mr. and Mrs. Spires that wrote this marital agreement. So a marital agreement is not a prenuptial agreement or premarital agreement. It's one that you agree to once you're married, okay? And what did they agree to? They agreed to some things like, what will you do now that we're married? Okay, I'm guessing there weren't a lot of provisions for what the husband was supposed to do. There were a lot for the wife, okay? She may not withdraw money from the bank without his permission. I like this one. May not attempt to influence the status intensity of any relationship that Mr. Spires may have with other individuals outside the marriage unless the husband verbally requests input. Right? That's an interesting concept, right? May not dispute Mr. Spires in public on any matter. There goes all my dinner conversations. Must conduct herself in accordance with all scriptures in the Holy Bible applicable to marital relationships, germane to wives, in accordance with the husband's specific requests.
Considering number 2, that one's just golden.
That's pretty good. Must maintain a sexual relationship that remains spontaneous and solely with the husband. That sounds spontaneous, right? This whole agreement just screams that. Must carry out requests of the husband in a strict accordance with timeliness, sequence, scheduling, etc. May not receive any loan or gift without first obtaining Mr. Spires' permission. Can't receive a gift? So then the book points out, when do you think that happened? And that was in 91. So do you think that agreement in 1991 was upheld? Now, what does it sound like? Have you all had some contracts? What does it sound like in contract law? Unenforceable? Does it sound unenforceable? Does it sound like an unconscionable contract? Does it scream that it's outrageous in some way, like it's unfair? That's not a legal definition. The point is that this was being fought in court. Some people went and argued whether or not that was enforceable contract. Okay, so this leads me to a question. But isn't marriage really just a business relationship?
Yes.
Isn't that all it is? We can't have a quid pro quo. Not in that fashion. That's not consideration. Wasn't it just a business relationship? By the way, that's our key word, business relationship.
Yeah. I mean, the only purpose in really getting legally married is the legal aspect of it, is uniting, properties, money, assets.
Mm-hmm. So you're joining two individual businesses. We'll call them sole proprietorships. And we're going to join them together, bring the assets together, and now we are going to function as a single partnership. Okay. What do we do with our information? Do we share all the things that you're bringing and you bring all this and we know exactly everything that we bring to the table?
It's giving both parties a legal right to, well, it depends on how you do it, but it's giving both parties a legal right to, what's in one person's bank account is also accessible to another.
Is that what the bank says? The bank will let you look? It sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah. But it depends on how you do it.
What do you think most people? So we're going to get married. Oh, let's get married, and we go down wherever we go to get married. You can go to church, you can go to the courthouse, you can go to Vegas, wherever you go. But you write it all out. We're like, I brought $8.78 from my bank account. I mean, do you think we did? No, are we talking prenups? How many people have a prenup, you think?
I don't know.
Like none, not that many. On a first marriage, how many people get a prenup? Yeah, it does. You've got to have some stuff first. Most people on their first marriage don't bring much money in, right? I know. I think I exaggerated mine. It was a big negative. But do you think we talk about those assets on first marriage? Should you? Yes, you should. Some marriage counseling that's required before some places you get married. They do start now. They've now actually talk a little bit about finances and what you bring and who your family is and like who's going to go where on what Christmas, right? And stuff like that, right? Which is some of the biggest battles about where holidays you're going, where you're going to spend Mother's Day. Well, everybody's got a mother, you know, things like that. It's complicated. Do people write all that stuff down? Do you, when you enter a business relationship, do you write that stuff down? I bring this, you bring this, and
Well, I was gonna say in the Catholic religion, you pretty much do, when you go through this classes, you just write that down, make a contract.
you know, write it down in the contract. You might get talked to about it.
Come on.
You might talk about it, but you ignore it because you don't care. Why don't we care when we're entering our marriage?
Because we're in love.
Right. So is it really a business relationship? It is. Do we treat it like it is? Do we treat it the same way? No, we're foolish. Love is blind. Dumb and blind, right? For that matter. Love is dumb and blind. I'm not saying it's bad. I just said it's dumb and blind. Because we go right into it. We wouldn't enter any other business relationship in our lives with that much blindness to what it is we're doing, right? That doesn't mean it's bad. I don't mean that at all, by the way. I don't mean that at all. My wife is a saint. And that's on recording. No, she really is. She just put up with me, as you can imagine, that stuff. Anyway, we enter into this business relationship, but we don't write down any of the guidelines. We don't know really much about it. We actually don't know how successful this business is going to be, right? And I don't mean that as the partnership creates wealth, but you go out and work and make money and you build and you own a house or whatever you do with your money, right? It gets bigger, or we don't know how poor it's going to get. We do know that in the vows in some places, your vows are you're going to, but for rich and for poor, right? That kind of thing. We think of the concept, but we don't know. What happens when we lose a lot? What do? We fight? We get, yeah, what? I mean, how do we resolve it? So there's where this whole body, in my mind, of divorce law comes in. It's to solve the problem that you never thought about what might happen when it all went wrong, right? Okay? So is it a business relationship? Absolutely. Should we treat it more like one? Probably. But that leads me to another question. Do we have to be married to be considering these loving relationships as business relationships? We have to get married for it?
No. If you want to,
when you cohabitate, shouldn't you come up with some kind of an agreement? A lot of people cohabitate without getting married, correct? I always like the Big Bang Theory, the roommate agreement, as an example. There's a roommate agreement.
It was like, I don't watch what some pages long.
Yeah. He's got you got anybody else watch Big Bang Theory? He's got a roommate agreement, right? And it applies, he's got all kinds of, it's really long. And of course, like most people, Leonard didn't read it, right? It just gets applied to him. The point is, do you do that even with your roommates who are not your significant other? No, right? We rent a place, we'll pay half, you pay half, and then we fight about it. And one of those days, we try to kick the other one out, and because you didn't do the dishes. I just one roommate, by the way. I'm sorry, I have to clean this up, because he used to get. I would wash a dish towel, and I swear the man would get cheese on my dish towel. I'm like, how do you melt cheese on a dish towel? Every time. This wasn't once. This was like every time. Okay, so I wanted to evict him.
What's the answer? How did you get cheese on it?
I have no idea. He couldn't explain it to me. He's like, it just happens. In what world? Like, oops, cheese. We're not talking like cheese whiz. We're talking about like melted in, like something was. I guess I don't know how he did. He was doing something wrong. Whatever it was, you weren't doing it right, buddy.
You probably, I don't think you should have evicted him. He might have had magical cheese powers.
No, I don't need any magical cheese.
For the rest of your life.
No, I didn't need any cheese. No, actually, we're still friends, so that's good. But luckily he moved out, and we didn't have to come to that.
You must be the gypsy friend. Tipping.
No, this isn't the gypsy. I've had lots of good roommates, by the way. So anyway, should you enter an agreement with your roommate? Probably should. Should you when you cohabitate with a significant other? Should you have some kind of an agreement? Especially when you start sharing assets. Now you can throw those out. But you should, at that point, more than you should in a marriage. Why? Why should you have a written agreement with your cohabitating significant other?
There's less protection if you're not married.
Why?
Legally.
Why?
Because if something happens to that person, then aren't you sort of legally responsible?
If something happens to that person, I think it's called criminally responsible. Mysteriously, they disappear. Yeah, you're left with nothing. Absolutely. Why? What's the difference? Why is it worse for that person than the spouse? Right, you're not legal. You didn't make it legal. We used to have something that dealt with this. It was called common law marriage. You ever heard of common law marriage? You cohabitate as husband and wife long enough, now you're married. 7. Yeah, 7. And they pretty much abandoned that everywhere. But what was it dealing with? It goes back to that old concept in family law or in families generally, that you wouldn't have cohabitated for more than 7 years unless you meant to be married, right? You wouldn't have. That's just what society dictates. You meant to be, you just didn't go down and make it official, right? So that's what common law marriage was. It's cohabitating without an agreement. Okay, so again, back to the part, you're cohabitating with significant other, and maybe you sign a lease together, maybe you bought a car together, maybe you're sharing a bank account. Don't do it, but maybe you are. Okay, but you're doing all that stuff. What's the problem?
Okay, here's the problem. 2 people bought a house together. Okay, they bought a house together. Each brought money in and bought the house. This is a true story. They live up the street.
I figured
Bought a
that.
house together. Okay, so they've lived together for the last couple of years, and now there's a breakup. Well, who's going to kick who out of the house? Right. Who gets it? Yeah, who's going to pay for it?
You bought the house together.
Yeah, it's in both their names.
Who gets to stay?
Yeah.
Problem number 1. Good question. Because now you're working everything out well together, right? You're having a good conversation. You're just going to negotiate it with each other, aren't you? And I'll stay, you go.
But don't you have to buy that other person out of that?
I don't know. We got problem number 1 is, where is the other one going to live?
Right.
That's problem number 1. That we're not even to that problem about how you're going to pay me for my part, right? So the first thing I got to do is what? What do you think I got to do? I got to evict you from your own house. How am I going to do that?
Go to the clerk's office, file a motion.
And is the judge going to evict you from your own house? Is the magistrate going to do it, for that matter? In West Virginia, is the magistrate going to evict you from your own house? Your name's on the deed. It's your house, right? Is the magistrate going to evict you? How are you going to get the other person out?
By force.
Yeah. Call a guy who knows a guy? I mean,
Wait,
really.
you're forced to sell the house and split the share.
But we're not even there yet. We're in the emotional turmoil. The fact you just kicked me out of the house I live in. I don't have anywhere to go. Yes, what you're saying is a rational question. We're going to get there eventually. But you know how many hurt feelings we're going to have before we get there? Not just hurt feelings, but kneecaps. Did you get the point? What my point is, this is complicated now, isn't it? How do you do it in a marriage? Okay, we bought the house together because we were married, and there's the deeds right of survivorship. And how do I get you out of the house? I go to family court, and I file a petition for divorce, and I say I want exclusive use of the home, and then I'm going to have some reason that should be mine versus yours, right? But it's a relatively simple process. Is it going to be painful? Yeah, it's still going to be painful, but at least we know there's a process for it. So what's the problem with the cohabitating significant other that you bought things together with? What are you going to do? What's the problem with that person? Are you going to family court who are used to dealing with the emotional connection? No, you're going to go to circuit court and fight out a partnership under the partnership laws, which is designed to have two or more people carrying on a business for profit. Not for emotional needs, but for profit. Right? You see the problem? The court is going to be a totally different court. It's going to be a case involving laws that have nothing to do with your property in your home. It has to do with stuff in your business. See why those are really complicated? The marriage and divorce laws have developed in order to convince you or to cover the fact you didn't enter into it knowingly with all the things that laid out, and you get to split all the stuff. In a partnership, by the way, you don't get what they call in a partnership, you get an arm's length agreement. Okay, that means I can hide what I have and you can hide what you have, and as part of our negotiating. In a marriage, you can't do that. You can't hide what you got, and you can't hide what you got, and then in the end, eventually you're going to find out. We're allowed to in divorce. In a partnership, you don't. So I could hide everything I wanted, and I'm going to put it over here with my brother. He's got it, right? He's going to hold it. You don't get to know anything about it, right? See the problem? So if you're going to enter those things, think about writing some down about how you're going to deal with how you live, who lives there, who's going to be the primary person. Is this a friendly conversation to have, by the way? We're in love. We're going to move in. Life's good. Give me a key. What?
Okay, but say if you do file it with some sort of papers, I mean, not file it, do you have it notarized? Do you have to file it with the clerk's office? What do you do after that?
I don't know. You can notarize it. No, you don't file it at the court. It's not worth it. I mean, it's just like a lease agreement. If you ever lease a property to you, you don't have to get it filed anywhere.
No, but having it.
I mean,
notarized
this
is
is
like
partnership.
makes it more legal.
The reason you would notarize it, you don't need to necessarily. Is it a requirement of a contract? No. Why do we do it? We want to confirm that that is the person's signature. Again, love's dumb and blind. We're going to be like, yay, we're moving in. It's exciting, right? And we're going to write this down. And then later I'm going to say, like, that one's my signature. I don't know that lady, right? But if you got a notary on it, it confirms that you did. It was me. I did sign, and the notary, right? It's good for that reason. Then I can't be like, I don't remember that. You'd be amazed what people say. I never lived there. You got married there for like 8 years, man. She must have put my name on that. I don't even know her. I'm serious. I've seen this stuff happen. It's like, no, it's not mine. Well, you parked there. Like, there's video you going in. I mean, my brother, but it's not me. Okay, point it. You get it. You get the point. It's complicated, right? It's still emotional, but it can turn into a business relationship accidentally. By the way, again, the key word was business relationship. Okay, so keep in mind that really a marriage is a contract, but we don't like go through all the hoops we would go through to write out a written contract, though it's probably one of the most serious contracts we will ever enter are those. Okay, things we ought to protect of ourselves. Luckily, the law deals with a lot of it if we're married, but if we aren't married, it's the same complications, but there's not as good of a mechanism. Okay. Why do we not have a good mechanism for that other piece? Because traditional marriage, okay, goes back to that. Have you ever heard of something called palimony? Right? What's palimony? It's basically where you were unmarried, but there's some law for that. It goes back to, there's a 70s case in California that goes back to an actor named Lee Marvin. You might remember the case of Lee Marvin, where he just wouldn't divorce. Yeah, he wouldn't divorce his wife for her, and she went by Marvin, and it was a whole big thing. But he was an actor, but it was an old palimony case, and it had to do with how you separate your property when basically you've taken advantage of our marital relationship, but we didn't have an official marital relationship. Anyway, it's complicated. That's complicated, and it's not something I've heard of happening in West Virginia. This is a point in information. Okay. So let's cover a few more things. We don't have to belabor any points about like the new terminology, but the book talks about terminology, and let me tell you a few things. I don't really love this first one, and it talks about the new term for divorce is dissolution. And dissolution is an old business term meaning to dissolve or to end a relationship. Divorce, we know it relates to a marriage, right? We know a divorce. We sometimes use that word in other areas, but divorce. But the new word they're calling dissolution. That's not really that good, because in states like Ohio, for instance, Ohio has divorce and dissolution. They're two different things. They mean the same thing, basically, but they're different. A divorce is a contested divorce, and a dissolution is what we would call in West Virginia an uncontested divorce, where we agree to dissolve our marriage, and we separate all our property, our custody, our child support, all those kinds of, in our property, we do all of that. In Ohio, so there's two different things, okay? In West Virginia, we just have contested divorce and uncontested divorce. It's still the same concepts, but so that dissolution term, just realize you'll see that from time to time. That typically means a divorce. It doesn't mean like somehow outside of court. A dissolution in Ohio is still resolved by court at the end, but you've agreed to the points. Alimony is two other terms that you'll see. Alimony actually is now what we call spousal support. And another word for it is separate maintenance or maintenance. In the old days, alimony, well, because alimony is so tied to it being only for the wife, that's why we're eliminating alimony as a term. It's still out there all the time. You'll see it in cases in West Virginia in particular. But spousal support is available to anybody, not just a wife, okay? Alimony, traditionally, that's where it came from, because guess what? Back to that original quote, and the unity of person, the wife didn't work outside the home. So the only person who would need spousal support was the wife, right? That's the concept. But that's not true today. I mean, anybody can get it. Just usually depends on who's in the more financially able position. Even then, alimony or spousal support is becoming increasingly rare, and it's certainly not like you'll hear people in the past that received alimony for life. I mean, even after remarriage, remarriage was the main kicker. It kicked you out of it, but even that, there were people who receive alimony for life, and that even if they were to be remarried, you will not see an order like that now. Maybe if the couple were in their like 80s or 90s and they were getting divorced, you might see that. But I'm serious. I mean, it's not common. So now you'd be lucky to get more than 3 or 4 years. And the idea is, and we'll get to those concepts later. The idea is for you to make your own living, outside the marriage, that kind of thing. We have, I think I've mentioned these terms before, but we now have what we call it the non-marital child. We used to call them illegitimate, and then we called them before that out of wedlock, and then we called them bastard, right? I know that's not a popular term, but I think you ought to know where that comes from. I think I referred to it in other classes as there was a whole area of law known as bastardy, right? And really, honestly, the whole area comes out of the royal families and noble blood. That's where it comes from, because that's where it's most important in the history of that law. Out of wedlock or non-marital children come out of that area, because then whether or not you have any entitlement to the throne, right? That's important to you. But and certainly my family history has no care about that, right? So it sounds cool though, right? So I'd love to be king, but just to be like a serf, right? That sucks. Okay. A caregiver, we sometimes call them custodians. We still call them custodians in West Virginia and in Ohio. Parenting plans, schedules, time, functions, responsibility, legal decision-making, and residential schedule. Those used to just be known as custody, visitation, and access to your child. Access. You'll sometimes see that term. I'm moving for access to my child. That seems like a weird way to put it, doesn't it? So just like everything, there's new terms. What is family law? Family law is a little bit of everything. And in the book, they give you tons of examples from one little case, but it basically, family law you involve in criminal law, you'll involve the divorce, separation, annulment laws, all those things, custody, support, contracts, real and personal property, corporate and business law, bankruptcy, tort, civil procedure, evidence, juvenile law, tax law, estate law, Social Security, disability, VA, ethics. Oh, ethics is a big one. Talking about emotions, right? I'll do anything. Do whatever you gotta do. I hate him. I don't care. Right? Constitutional law? What does constitutional law have to do with family law? It's real simple. Due process is the first one. Procedural due process. I get a hearing. Right? That's the first part. The other part is you have a right to raise your own child. That's constitutional principle. Right? So at any time I'm going to restrict your ability to raise your own child in any way, that's a constitutional question, isn't it? So kind of interesting. The era of family law with social media is really good fodder if you're a lawyer or you're on the lawyer side, because you can find the funniest stuff in there. Sad stuff too, but funny stuff. And I wasn't there, but I selfied in front of it, right? Or I made some rant. I never said that about. It's there. I see it. I can subpoena Facebook.
Yeah.
I can subpoena your text messages. I can subpoena most of what's on the internet. I heard that they're trying to subpoena Alexa. Have you heard that? The Amazon Alexa. They're trying to subpoena her records because they're overhearing what you're saying in your house. That's creepy, isn't it? Anyway, we're doing it willingly. Like, we're paying $250 for the privilege. Yes. To keep that in mind, we're going to commit crime. You got Alexa. Whisper. It's like your bug. They're fighting it though because it's not consensual or whatever.
It's insanity. Like, some little girl accidentally, she was telling her mom what she wanted for Christmas, and
She ordered a bunch of
stuff, and Alexa just automatically ordered it because she was talking about it. And then they were warning people who own Alexa about it through showing it on the TV, and they played the recording of the little girl
When your credit card bill comes.
and the people with Alexa units in their house who were watching it ordered it. Like, they got orders of the doll and like whatever else the little girl wanted. And
So it still was keying in that was an order being placed. That's
it just
interesting.
kept happening. And so
I'm not a
it's
fan of
like,
this.
Were they being charged on?
I have two that
Yes, it is, too.
own the Alexa unit.
Now you don't even have one touch ordering.
Yeah.
Go for new stuff.
That's a whole violation.
And
Alexa knows my credit card number.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But in any event, all of that stuff makes, like, people think that it disappears, but it doesn't. It's all out there. I mean, typically, I will tell you this. When it comes to text messages, I can always pull the text messages off the person that receives them phone, off their actual phone. But if you won't give it to me, I can, usually they delete them every 3 days. So text messages only last 3 days. So I have to know ahead of time and get them to stop deleting them so that I can have them. You know, it still takes, they make you jump through like 12 hoops and try to prove why you should get the things. But you all can't do it. I can do it. I have to issue a subpoena as the lawyer and then have to prove that I'm the lawyer for the person who wants them. It's kind of an annoying thing, but I can get them. I've done it a couple times. It's way too much information than you want. I'll tell you that. It's like people only tell you what they think you should hear when you're meeting with them. Like, here's what I heard. Here's what we see. And they show you like the last 3. Oh, the ones before that. Oh, you don't want those. No, you sometimes maybe, but it definitely leaves you like, you're not getting the same thing out of the conversation as I am. Not the same, right? I mean, seriously. Okay, so all that being said, there's a lot out there. That has changed a lot about family law cases and whether, you know, they talk a little bit about all the places you can subpoena, and it says, like, I couldn't attend things because I was busy doing at work, and it turns out, like, you know, they can monitor internet use and stuff and figure out where you really were and all this kind of thing. So it gets complicated, and anyway. So there's a brief introduction to family law. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Next time we're going to talk about, we'll pretty much, I mean, you don't really need to read a lot of chapter 1. We've covered pretty much all the main things out of chapter 1. Next time I'd like to look at chapter 2, which is about premarital, postnuptial, and cohabitation agreements. Oh, there's that word, cohabitation agreement. And we'll talk about those in the context, in this context, and see what. So really, if you can, try to read chapter 2. Also, I understand if you don't have the book, you don't have the book. That's just what it is.
If you're on Blackboard, you can go to course tools and it should be in there.
Books in there?
It should be. That's what I had to use last semester.
I don't think I have the book logged into it, though. Well, that's mine. You guys don't have that, do you? Yes, there's a syllabus quiz, assignment, not quiz, assignment. Don't forget about that. That's due before you come in here next week. All right? See ya.